welcome back to BC. From Quebec to BC, Summit Minerals, Robert Willis will be presenting. And they started drilling the Buck property just in early February. So we are due for some results. And I'm sure Robert is going to give us some details and give us maybe a bit of a preview of what's happening and what the plans are. So looking forward to him present. And thanks for joining us, Robert.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Yeah, a little bit of a glitch here on my end. Yeah, I was just mentioning that I would be making some forward-looking statements today, and I would encourage everybody to go to our website and go through this document in its entirety. Summit Minerals is a company that actually was formerly San Marco Resources, and Tukey Angus and myself were co-founders of San Marco 11 or 12 years ago, and with a mandate of exploring in northern Mexico, and we did that for about 9 or 10 years, and then in 2019 our board decided to change our jurisdiction from Mexico to Canada and possibly the United States. So in order to do that, we decided that we would want to try and identify a project that would have some scale and had some historical work that we could lean on rather than a full-fledged early greenfields project. In order to accomplish that, we needed to put together a significant group of geoscientists, and we've done that with Sharon Alexander, Christopher Leslie, and Chris Gallagher. And each of these team members are significant in their education. Each is a master's degree geologists, and each have certain areas of expertise, all the way from economic geology analysis through GIS through structural expertise. Now, one of the things that we decided to do was to look in northern British Columbia, and we came across a property called the Buck property. And the significance of the Buck property and what drew us to it was about 30 or 40 years of historical information. And we spent about 6 or 8 months compiling all the historical information and came up with a situation where we recognized that there were, mainly in the 1980s, 50 or 60 drill holes, all of which had significant gold and silver mineralization over 1 to 200 meter intercepts. And so with that, we decided to go back and look at historical drill core. Well, there was no drill core that was in any shape that we could find and that would be of any value. So then in early 2020, we drilled 5 holes to simply get some drill core and compare that to what the historical drill logs showed us. So that put us into mid last year. And so the Buck property then, as we can see, is located in just south of the town of Houston, which is a resource-based exploration town. There's forestry going on and whatnot in the area. It's very close to some historical operating mines. The Huckleberry mine on the bottom of the screen is an open pit copper mine. Surge Copper is exploring around its perimeter. The Equity silver mine, copper mine that Gold Corp has is just to the east of us. And there's numerous other properties, Equity Metals just to the south of the Buck properties currently being explored, as well as others. It's an all year-round exploration opportunity. There's no helicopter support or camp required. We're fully permitted on a 5-year area-based permit, and it allows us for year-round exploration, as we're currently indicating by our current drilling. It's a very large property, 33,000 hectares, and that has been increased over the last year based on some new discoveries inside the property. The historical drilling that I mentioned, we can see in the trench zone, in the horseshoe zone, those white dots that we see on this slide are areas from the previous drilling mainly in the 1980s. We can see the scale bar on the top. We've got about a 2-kilometer structural corridor east to west. And the horseshoe zone, the trench zone, is where mainly the historical work was done. But our recent exploration last summer identified new target zones: Buck North, Bob Zone, and the West Grosson Zone. What is important on the Buck property is that there's a very, very significant metal endowment over a very large area. And what we see on this slide is what we call a Buck structural corridor. And it's a situation where there's about a 300 to 400 meter wide area of intense faulting fracturing, which is allows for fluid process through the rocks. There's also different rock types that we see that is very susceptible to a metal emplacement. So, for example, on the east side of this screen, where we can see all of the historical holes and the holes that we drilled last year, which are the green dots. And then we can see the mosaic breccia, which we'll look at in a minute, which is a different style of mineralization. So we go from disseminated mineralization over 100 to 200 meter intercepts to the mosaic breccia over 40 to 50 meters we can see on here of a gram plus. And then our discovery hole, what we call our discovery hole, is hole 12 in the center of the screen. And we can see there that there's a number of high-grade intercepts which we had not seen on the property in the past. So, for example, 7.5 meters of just over 10 grams gold, 17 meters of 5.8 grams gold, including 3 meters of 23 grams. And of course, we do have one higher grade intercept of 1.5 meters of almost 50 grams per ton gold. So this is a discovery on the Buck property that has not been seen in the past, and this is going to be and is the root of our current drill program. One of the things that was important in our discovery process was we completed an IP survey last fall, and we didn't have the results of this prior to our drilling last fall. But we can see on this slide, the center part of the slide is a 150 meter vertical slice. And we can see the C1, C2, C3, and these are plus 30 millisecond chargeability anomalies. And on the right-hand side, C2, C4, that's down a 300 meter horizontal slice. And we can see that the intensity of the sulfides is increasing. And this is something that was not known on the property in the past, and is really, as we can see here, the yellow stars is really the root of our current drill program. And the hole 12, our discovery hole, as we can see, is drilled just along the edge of the C1 anomaly in the Trent zone. I'd like to just go through this cross section for a minute. The pink kind of squiggly line that we see on here is an envelope, if you will, of interpreted gold and silver mineralization. And we can see on the right-hand side the drill traces where we get the red and the pink and the orange. These are significant gold intercepts that are associated with these IP highs, and we can see that in C1 and C2. So the green drill traces that we're currently is in our current drill program. As we can see, we are going to be intersecting from different angles the high-grade gold discovery in hole 12, as well as looking at some of the other areas that have had little or no drilling. And I want to just make reference on this slide to the Trent zone. You can see some holes, drill hole traces right at the surface, and those are very short, from 1980s. And so our interpretation with our new group and our new technology has indicated that albeit there is some reasonable grades in those holes, they were much too shallow for what we're currently discovering. We can see that there are some interpreted faults. We see a central fault and a western fault. It appears as though there may be a stair-step down drop going from the right side to the left side of the screen. And again, that is as a result of our current group doing the 3D modeling on this project. The three types of mineralization that we currently see is the high-grade gold that we've just discovered in our hole 12, which was in the last program last fall. This is something new in the property. We don't believe that this has been seen before. We certainly haven't seen it. And this is very, very significant with the kind of grades that we're seeing. And this is a photo of the almost 50-gram gold per ton in our discovery hole. I'd also like to talk about, this is near surface or at surface. We call it this mosaic breccia. And we can see it's the black infill sulfides is really where the goodies are. That's basically sphalerite and pyrite and purite. And we do have significant gold values in this mosaic breccia. And it's at surface, and it ranges 40 to 50 meters in thickness so far where we do see it. So I think going forward here, we've just started a 5,000 meter drill program about a month ago. We aren't sure how many holes this will be. It's kind of, we're going hole by hole, and we're seeing, very interesting rocks in our drilling. We're currently, I think we've currently got 8 or 9 holes complete, most of which we have continued to drill a little bit deeper based on the kind of geology that we're seeing. We will also, in conjunction with drilling the high-grade mineralization, we're going to be drilling these chargeability anomalies, these large ones that have never been drill tested before. We believe that based on what we see so far, that there is gold associated with sulfides. And we will also be drilling this mosaic breccia, again, expanding on that at or near surface. I think one of the things that's important for us is that our share structure in our company is fairly tight at this point in time, about 51 million shares outstanding at market cap, around 23 million. We're currently totally funded for this drill campaign, as we were for the one last fall. And as I mentioned, we plan to continue drilling up to 5,000 meters, possibly a little more than that. And of course, we'll need to start getting some assays at some point in time. The labs are still a tad backed up, but I'm sure that we'll get in excess of 5,000 meters. We do have a fairly significant institutional ownership, about 20%, insiders just over 10%. And I think I'd just like to share the stock chart here, where we can see that through our phase 1 drilling, a fairly good response in the market. And I guess of significance is in our high-grade gold discovery that we made late last year, the market response in that regard. And we're trading, fairly good volume in that area.
Great, Robert, this has been fantastic. I do have to stop you at this time before you jump onto more slides. We are out of time, unfortunately.
Okay.
But we do have a couple questions also in the chat. One of them is, how deep can you go in the open pit scenario? Like what's feasible there, for example? So I'll translate that, because the question has been asked in German. So I'll make sure to get to that and translate that for you in there. Really appreciate you joining us. Really excited to see first results coming out of Buck. Do you have a timeline for us on that?
Yeah, we do have a few holes in the lab as we speak, but I would expect that in sort of 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, we'll start seeing results, maybe sooner. But this is going to be an ongoing process with the number of holes that we're drilling. So I would expect over the next 4 to 5 months, it'll just be a continuing process of putting results out in batches as we receive them.
Great, Robert. Thanks so much for joining us, and please stay on in the chat. And I know I think your colleague Nancy Curry is also in the chat as well.